So hey everyone, and in this video I am going to explain you how you can use AWS IAM. Okay, so basically what is the purpose of IAM? Let's understand that. So let me just first of all sign in. Okay, so I'm gonna sign in with my root user. Okay, so let's sign in with the root account which you have created. Okay, so if you haven't created, you can check out that video in my channel. I'll upload the link in the description. You'll find that video. Okay, so it's very easy to create a AWS account. You just need a credit card. I would say just pick a Visa supported one. It works most of the time, because sometimes I use the RuPay credit card but it didn't work well. Okay, so what you can do is you can use the Visa type of card. It would work. Okay, or else borrow some of your friend's card, because it's totally free. It would just ask things for verification. The card is only asked for verification. Okay, so that's it. And you can borrow your friend's card or your parents' card. I just borrowed my father's card and it took around 2 rupees as a transaction value, so that's totally fine, right? So else everything is free. You don't need to worry about anything. So create that account. The link is available in the description, or I'll mention it in the I button. Okay, so now in the root part I just need to log in, so I'll just log in with my account. Okay, so I'll just log in, and I type the password and then sign in. Okay, so now you can see that I am signed in as a root user. Okay, so this is how the page looks, the console home looks. And here what you need to do is, if you don't find IAM here, what you need to do is you can simply search IAM. Okay, so first of all, full form of you can see it simply is used for managing access to AWS resources. Okay, what it actually means is, let me just show you in my whiteboard. You'll understand this better. Okay, so basically guys, what happens is AWS is like a delicate child, right? So like, even if you do a very simple thing, sometimes it may ask you for money. Okay, and sometimes it may not ask you for money. It would directly just bill you for that thing which you have used mistakenly. Okay, so if you want to use AWS, they are basically two ways. Okay, you have a root user, or else you are some random people. Okay, random person, you have some random people, or you have random users like your teammates or somebody else. Okay, so you can assume that this is the CEO of the company. Okay, and then these are the employees. Okay, so employee one, who can do something with your AWS, some contribution, I mean. Okay, so employee 1, 2, 3, something like that. Okay, so what actually happens is, this guy is the root user. That means it has access of everything. So it's always recommended, never try to just deploy something like, are you using S3 or EC2, whatever you are trying to use. Don't try to use those things. Don't try to make anything with the help of this root user. You must use the sub users like employee 1, employee 2, employee 3. Okay, or this root user can create a temporary sub user account. That sub user is again called as IAM. So you can create multiple IAM users. Okay, IAM user is not the root user, it's sub users. Okay, it's like you are giving some admin privileges, not all. That means, for example, this employee 1 is actually allowed to, suppose, use EC2. Okay, this employee 1 is allowed to use EC2. Suppose this employee is allowed to use S3 plus EC2. Okay, and this employee is allowed to use Lambda. So you can see that I have defined specific permission to each user. Similarly, suppose I have just created a temp root user, which is actually not a root user. It's some temporary root user. It's like temporary sub user. Okay, you can consume that. You can consider this as a temporary sub user, right? So again, I can give this some permissions. So again, I can give it some permission, like again EC2 usage is allowed. Okay, EC2 usage is allowed, S3 usage is allowed, and Lambda usage is allowed. Okay, so things like that are allowed. Okay, so you can see that that's the purpose of IAM. So I can create multiple IAM users and I can easily give them some specific permissions. Okay, so I can also create a group of permissions. I can create some policies also, which we are going to discuss right now. And trust me, after this video you are not going to worry about anything, and you'll easily understand what's the purpose of IAM. Okay, so let's do this, guys. So what we are going to do is, we are simply going to just go inside this IAM. I'll just click this. Okay, so once you click this, you would simply see right now I'm logged in as root user, right? So what you need to do is, first of all, I would just create a temporary alias. This alias is only for the root user, okay? This alias is for the root user and would not act as a sub user. It's for the root user, root alias, okay? It's a root alias, it's not a sub user. Okay, so I'm just gonna name it as, suppose, something like HARSHAL gen root. Okay, so I'm just gonna name it something like that. It must be unique, okay? It must be unique. It must not taken by anyone else, so it must be unique. You can see it's fine. So you can see that I created this alias. Okay, so now what you need to do, guys, is I'll just do one thing. Okay, I'll just create user group. Okay, you can see that right now the user group is empty, and I would also create the users, and I would also create some policies. Okay, don't worry about the roles is some advanced topic which you would mostly don't need. You would mostly work with policies or users or user groups. Okay, so let's first of all create some users. Guys, here you can see that right now users are empty, so I'm simply going to click on create user, and let's give this user a name. Okay, so I'm just going to say that Viraj Jain. Okay, Viraj Jain, and let's name it as admin. Okay, so that Harshal Jain root is the root user, and there are some admins. One of our admin is Viraj Jain admin. Okay, that means this admin would be only having some rights. Okay, would be only having some rights. Okay, and I'm just gonna say that this user is allowed to use the console. I want to create the IAM user. That's it. That's the general permission you usually give here. And now here you are going to create a password, which obviously the IAM user would change. So you can just give a easy password like HJ123. Okay, I think it must work. So now if I click on next, okay, I have to pick some good password. So I'll just type capital HJ at the rate 123. Okay, some easy password so that you don't forget this password. Okay, again, I'm just going to copy this because I forget things a lot. Okay, so later on the IAM user would definitely change this, but still you need to do this. Okay, 8 character wrong, 456. Okay, fine. Fine, now it must work. Okay, so you can see that now what you need to do is you need to add some permissions. Okay, so either you, if you have a group, later on we're going to work on this. If you have some permissions, you can copy permission, or you can directly attach some policies. For example, this, to this admin, to this sub user, I want to give S3 permissions. Suppose if I search S3 here, you can see that there are a lot of permissions for S3. What I want is I want to give full access, so you can see full access. Similarly, I want to give this user one more permission, like suppose for EC2 also. That means user can use the EC2 console. Okay, so you can see full access. So you can see right now I've given full 2 permissions here. Although this is not recommended to do these things manually again and again, because there would be multiple users and you would be doing this again and again, so it's not recommended. But for now, since you are being started with this, so you can give permissions right this. Okay, later on we're going to create policies or groups which would be way more better than manually giving permissions. Okay, but for now consider this, and now I'm just going to create user. Okay, now you can see that return to user list. I'm just going to continue, and you can see this is the user, right? So now what you need to do is, this is our friend. Okay, this is our friend who is trying to contribute to our main Amazon account, AWS account, right? So now I'm going to log in with this friend, which is only having some specific permission. What permission? EC2 and S3. So now if I try to use Lambda with this user, will I be able to use it? No, I won't be able to use Lambda with this. Okay, so let's try this. So I'm just gonna sign out here, and once I sign out, let's try to sign in again with what? With that admin user. Okay, now we're going to log in with that admin user. So here you just need to add the account ID. What's the ID? If you don't know the ID, we'll see the ID later on, but right now I'll just add the account alias. Okay, so account alias is what? HARSHAL Jan root. Remember, we just created a alias which is only for the root. Okay, so that's how the Amazon account would be identified. Okay, root user would be identified. Now root user is identified. Now you need to write just the friend name. Okay, so what was your friend name? So Viraj Jain admin. Okay, then after that, what password did you give him? So you gave the password HJ at the rate 123456, some easy password. Okay, so that you are allowed to connect. Now you can see everything is fine. You can see now what you need to do is you just need to change the password for this specific admin user. Okay, so now this friend is trying to log in, and first they need to change the password. So again, I would just type the same password, HJ at the rate 123456. Now I would pick some good password. Okay, so I picked some good password. Now if I confirm this, you can see that, guys, now I am logged in. Okay, so the password must be very confidential, even if your friend's password. So now you can see that now I'm logged in with what? With sub user. Okay, I'm not the root now, I'm the sub user now. You can see I only have some specific right. What rights? So now as a sub user, I try to go to IAM. So you would see that I don't have any access. Okay, I can't see the users. Okay, if I go to user, you can see I don't have the access. Okay, so if I am allowed with the policy, then only I can access these things. What two things were allowed? I can do S3 task. Okay, whatever I want to do with S3, you can see that guys here we are allowed to view S3 and we can do a lot of things here. You can see I had a previous bucket, so you can do a lot of things here. Okay, similarly if I talk about EC2, you can also use EC2. Okay, you can also use EC2. There are no problems here. But if I try to use, suppose lambda, okay, if I try to use lambda, which you might use later on, so if I write lambda here, and you would see that you are not allowed to use lambda. Okay, perfect. So I hope you understood how users are created. Okay, so I'm going to sign out. Now I have to just do some more things. So to do some more things, that means to give some more privileges, you must be logged in as a root user. Okay, you can't be any sub user and you can give privileges. No, privileges can only be given by root user. But it's always recommended, like we created the temporary user, we created the sub user, that is Viraj and admin, right? So now I'm going to do all of my tasks with my sub user. Okay, I'm going to do all of my tasks, important tasks which are not related to billing or which might not cause intentional billing. So I hope you're getting this. Okay, so this employee one, or you can say Viraj and admin, would be given some specific permissions. You would be doing only some specific tasks so that there are no accidental billings. Okay, so that's why we use the sub user, that is the IAM user. Okay, so never try to do anything with the root user. Only you use the root user to manage your account, or if there is some billing, so do the billing with the root user. And what else can you do? You can just manage different users, right, and just give some policy just like that. Don't try to manage any kind of EC2 instance, any S3 bucket with the help of root user. IAM users are for doing those things so that there is no unintentional access and things are perfect. You don't have to spend money so much. Okay, so that's why we have sub users, employee 1, employee 2, employee 3, right? Now let's continue. So I'm going to log in for now with the root user because I have to explain you permissions. Okay, so for giving permissions, always root user must be there. Okay, so I'm just going to sign in with the root user. Okay, so here I'll just select the root user, and whatever was the root user, I'm just gonna log in with. Okay, so this is now the root user. All the access are given to this root user, right? We have all the access. So now what you need to do is, suppose I'm going to create one more sub user, one more friend of mine wants to use this. Okay, he's a cloud developer, so I'm simply going to go here and users, and here I'm just going to create a user. Let's name this user as Tony admin. Okay, something like that, Tony admin. And again, some access, I want to create this custom password, so I'll just pick some password 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, so you can see I've just picked some random password for now, temporary easy password. Okay, so I'm just going to click on next, and here you need to attach some policies. You can see that here we have some options. Okay, but right now what I want to do is, instead of this, I want to add this user to a group. Okay, so right now we don't have a group, so I'm just going to press control and click on okay, so you can see that now I've clicked on create group, and here you can just create a group. Okay, so I would just name it as my grp. Okay, so I'm just gonna name it as my devs. Okay, or I'm just gonna name it as merge stack developers, so that I assuming that these two people are merge stack developers, so I'm just gonna create a group of merge stack developers. Okay, and what they would be using, suppose merge stack developers would be using EC2. Okay, so I'm just gonna come here and EC2 full access. Okay, easy to full access. For now I'm just going to create it like this. So create user, so you can see a group has been created. Okay, now that user would be added to this group. How to add that? So I'm just simply going to select this. Okay, if you already have some groups, they would also be shown here. Right now, suppose you were attaching some policies directly, but instead of this, now what we are going to do is we are simply going to add this user to the group. If you want to create another group, you can create group, but just now we created this group. I'm just going to select this. Okay, now just click on next, and you can see create user. Okay, so now you can see that another user has been created. Okay, so I'm just going to return to users list and continue. And guys, here you would see that in user groups you would see that we have a MERN group. Inside MERN group you can see we only have one user. Okay, so if I go to users, and we have Tony admin, you can see Tony admin has what access? You can see that EC2 full access, and this is by default IAM user. Okay, so you can see that this user is only allowed to change their own password and only use EC2 because of this group. Okay, because of this group is coming from what? EC2 full access is coming from what? User groups. Okay, suppose I give one more permission to this. Okay, how can I do this? So if I come here, if I suppose want to give one more permission, I want to give lambda permission. Okay, so what I can do is I can just click on add permissions, and I can attach some policies also. We'll see policies later on, but I'm just going to create something. Okay, so I'm just going to choose some specific service. Suppose I want to use lambda, and here you can see that I want to give some specific permissions here. So you can see that here also you can do this, but instead of this we're going to create some policy, then we would understand things. Okay, so I'm just going to remove this for now, but right now I hope we understood how to create a group. Suppose if I create one more group, let's try to create one more group. If I go to user groups, and if I create one more group here, I'm just going to name it as CLOUD devs. Okay, suppose this is a cloud developer, and I'm just giving this permission to, suppose, Virajan admin and Tony admin. Two users are in this group. Okay, that means what permission I want to give? Suppose I want to give it some permission like cloud9. Okay, so if I write cloud9, you can see Amazon AWS cloud9 user, and whatever permissions you want to give, I'm just giving some temporary permissions. Okay, so right now you can see that I've created cloud devs. Inside this we have two users, both of them now would be having cloud9 permission. You can see if I go to users, if I go to Tony admin, you can see that now instead of two permissions we have three permissions. This is the new permission which we have because of user group, right? So guys, I hope you understood the purpose of user group. Now let me explore one more thing, that is policies. Now you don't want to create user group, you just want to create some set of rules which are there, and I want to give these specific rules to some specific users or anyone. Okay, so I don't want to create group, I just want to create a set of permissions which are there. Okay, I just name those and automatically I would be using it. Okay, so now let's test this. So here what I'm going to do is, here I'll just click on create policy. Let's try to create a policy. I'm just going to name it as okay, so you have to choose a service. So here for example I want to use some other service, so for example SNS, and here if I just click on all, you can just check out the permission later on. There are read permission, write permission. I hope you know what is read and write. So if you want to give some sources, I would just for now give all sources. Now if I click on next, you can see I have to pick the policy name, so I'm just going to name it as temp policy. Okay, temp policy, because later on I want to delete this. I can easily delete this by just naming this. Okay, so I easily know that this is some temporary policy which I don't really need. Okay, so that's why I'm naming it like this, but you have to name this properly. Okay, so that you can remember it. Okay, for later in future I'll just delete this because this is for the video only. So right, I'm just naming it like this. So I would just click on create policy. Okay, and here you can see that now the policy would be created. Where you'll see the policy, you can see you're in the policy section, and here you would see that customer managed, you can see temporary policy. Right inside this, what do we have? We have SNS. So if you want to add some more things, you can definitely add some more things. You can just create some more things. You can add some permissions also. Okay, so you can see here also guys, we have some more things, permissions defined in this policy. Okay, so if you want to edit this, you can edit some more things. You can just edit the permissions. You can see we have the permissions here, right? Or if you have some visual, you can just add like a visual. Okay, that would be easier. Instead of JSON, you would add it like a visual. That would be more easier. Okay, so you can do it both way, but yeah, that's how you can edit the policy. For now we only have one permission, that is SNS permission, that is some type of service in AWS. Okay, so yeah, you can see that we just created a policy. Okay, so now for using this policy, okay, for using this policy, you can see this is the policy name. Suppose this is a user. Okay, this is a user, Tony admin. I want to give this some more permission. Okay, what I would simply go is add permission. Okay, and here you can see I can either select the group, I can attach the policy. I would just click here. So you attach the group, right? You know how you groups work, but here I would just go on policy and customer manage. So you can see now I can easily add a policy. Okay, so even if you don't want to have user groups, you can just create a policy, and in policies you can add permissions later on. You can add different permissions later on, so that you don't have to add permission to specific groups. Okay, so that's how policies work. That's also fine. So in most cases you would be using user groups or policies. Don't give direct permission to users. Okay, initially what we did was we simply gave EC2 full access or some permission which we directly gave while we create the user. That's not allowed. You don't do this. What you do is you create some groups. User groups is fine, or you create policy. There you define your permission and then attach your user with the group. For example, you can see this is here. Okay, this is here, and here you can just go on groups. You can just add more Yeah, you can see that, yeah, here you can add this user to the specific group, and once you add this, so you can see that now this user is added to the group, right? So guys, I hope you understood the purpose of IAM, and now you would be using this in a lot of cases where you want to have your friends to use your AWS, but you don't want them to mess around with your billing system. That's why it's really useful, right? So I hope you understood this video, and I hope in future you won't need to follow any other video after this. Okay, so you can rewatch this video in future also, so it would be saved in my channel. You can check out the AWS playlist available in the description, and also mention it somewhere else. Okay, so that's it for today. I will see you in the next one. Till then, have a good day. Bye bye.